Hello, I'm Steph from My Driver Classic, and today we're stepping well out of my usual comfort zone of classic British vehicles, and we are down at the Citroen Car Club Rally. I had so many enthusiastic members tell me that this was something I had to attend this year, and I thought, do you know what, with all that passion and enthusiasm, I'm going to come and check it out and see what's going on. So we've driven over 150 miles to be here today, and my goodness, it hasn't been an opportunity wasted because it's only day one when I'm filming this little bit, and already we have seen so many brilliant cars. Some really good stories, really good cars. So in today's video, we're going to take a gentle walk around this rally together. We're going to have a look at some of the cars, have a natter about some of the observations, and also meet some of the people here and hear their stories. It's 75 years of the club this year, and everyone's really decked out, having a great time. And I think you're going to enjoy this as much as I have. Come on, let's go and have a look. Now in today's video, you're going to see something that you may not be expecting to see, because you might be watching this video and thinking it's just a classic car show, which, look, is what I thought when I first signed up to come. And I thought, oh, I'm just going to see a load of old Citroens today and it's going to be great. But actually this show was better because it had modern cars. And hear me out, because I'm not usually a modern car person. What they did was the Citroen Car Club is open to every single Citroen owner, and I really like this, and I didn't realise how much I'd like it till I saw it in person. And what it means is it means that if you go and buy a Citroen straight off the forecourt, you receive just as much support, friendship, community as someone in something like an old DS. Now, I didn't realise how powerful that was, but actually once I got onto the rally field, I realised what that meant for this club. And what it means is when you come to events like this, they are so lively and vibrant and full of people that are so very different. And what I mean by that is that when you go to a car show, usually you get people sat on deck chairs. Now, I love this because it means that you have a slower pace for the day than modern life, and you get to sit down and chat to people and find out a little bit about what they're all about and their cars. But for this, it was a little bit different because you got a wider variety. The pace was much slower than modern life, but it wasn't as slow as a typical classic car show, because you had families, you had lots of children, you had a lot of young people and a mix of different people that maybe you wouldn't catch at a normal classic car show. And I quite like this, because what then happened was I think it added some vibrancy, because you had people bringing in fresh excitement that didn't usually see classic cars but were seeing them because they were bringing their modern Citroen along. You had people that were maybe interested in modern cars, but it wasn't really their thing, asking questions about the modern cars. You saw appreciation for a modern car, in my opinion, that I think will probably be a future classic, and that was the Berlingo. And you saw a lot of that, and you also saw an awful lot of love and people hanging on to 90s and 80s cars in a way that I don't think you always see for brands here, that I found incredibly heartwarming and refreshing, because people already place enormous value on some of the 90s stuff under the Citroen banner than I see for other brands. And I think that is really, really encouraging, because it shows that the club aren't just thinking about, oh, let's protect the classics, let's look after them, which of course is so important, but they're also thinking about the future classics and future-proofing the brand and the love of the brand. And for me, this was a new take on a car show that I found to be incredibly illuminating. I really enjoyed it. Of course, I've started with the traditional classics, as I would usually show on the channel, because that's where my interest lies. But I'm also going to show you today some of the modern stuff, because I want to show you what people in this club, or people that love those Citroens, think and appreciate as the classics of tomorrow, the classics of the future. And I just think it's really great. I mean, I'm showing you lots of these DSs because this is just, I can't wait to drive one. We've got one booked. But yeah, it's just going to be a bit of a different video today compared to some of the other car shows where we've been, and you see some really great cars, but you don't see the classics of tomorrow, you just see the classics of today. So buckle up, because In today's video, it is going to be a different pace. You are going to see some different stuff, but I'm really hopeful that just like me, you are going to enjoy it. But of course, we're going to do our tried and tested method first of all, and we're going to go and have a chat with an owner of one of the more classic Citroens that's on display here today.
Hi, I'm Yvonne Skinner.
I'm Alistair Skinner.
And this is our AK400 2CV van, which we've had for the last 3.5 years. And we have drove all the way down from the Scottish borders to be at this event in Cambridgeshire. And she never missed a beat. She rolled along beautifully through all the rain and whatever gets thrown at us. And we enjoy driving around in her very much, and we find that she also generates an awful lot of attention, which really pleases us. When you're driving along, you see people smiling, and it gives you quite a nice feeling really that it's making other people happy as well, because she is a bit quirky.
By the way, I should probably tell you that if you hadn't realised this already, which you probably have, is that I asked you in the last video when we went to a car show and we walked around and we blocked out all the background noise, because quite often you pick up people's radios and stuff like that. And for anybody who doesn't know this and missed the Morris Minor National Rally video, is that if you have music playing in the background, YouTube will essentially collar you and you get in trouble for copyright and all sorts of things. So it's really important that I have to listen back to this stuff, and sometimes it's just easier for me to knock it down silent. And I was using background music, and I asked you in the last video, the Morris Minor one, if you wanted background music or not on these videos. And I would say that aside from one or two of you, you all wanted it to be silent. So please know that sometimes I don't always get around to replying to all the comments, although I do try, is that I do read them, and we're not going to have background music on show videos anymore. So you're just going to get it on the intro and the outro. So hopefully that'll make these videos a lot more enjoyable for everybody. Although if you are watching me interview somebody and you hear something in the background, well, there's not really much that I can do about that. Now, if you are watching this, this is our main classic segment, although I want to know from each segment which is your favourite car. I was really in love with this 2CV with the back box. I thought this was such a clever invention, and it's definitely something I'd need because I've always got too much rubbish with me. Let's have a look at some of the other cars and have a quick chat with another owner. Now, this one is one of my favourites. Now, this is Charles and his beautiful Citroen. Charles, tell us everything, including the year of manufacture.
Right, this is a 1936 traction Avant, made in Slough in the UK. Very original old car. It had been buried in a barn for many years, dug out in about 1976. When I say buried, it was just locked away in a stone barn in Norfolk with a tiger moth plane of all things.
Really?
Which is a bit unusual, yeah, and I'm hunting down the guy who owns a tiger moth at the minute.
Oh, really?
So,
are you on to any hot leads with that?
Yes, I think I've worked out who he is and where he is, so
Oh my
when I go back to
goodness.
Norfolk I shall go and find him. It's just one of the little things that go with a car. But no, I've had it a couple of years, we've done quite a bit of work to it, runs really nice now.
So a car, I think people make sometimes assumptions that cars from the 1930s perhaps aren't all that usable. What would you say to those people? Is it a car that you can take out and do decent mileage in, or is it something you keep for small journeys?
Generally I use it for small journeys, but like today we did a 75-mile run here.
Did you really?
We're from North Lincolnshire, so that's where we've come today, and I've done more than that in a day in it. It's quite capable. Not the most economical things to drive, but that doesn't really matter. It's one of those things.
Well, when you're driving a car this beautiful, I don't think MPG is your biggest concern.
No.
Now, with a car of this age, what's it like getting parts?
They are available. Sometimes I have to get, although it's an English-made car, I go to France for parts.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, which is a bit crazy really, but parts are available through the club, through the Traction Club, but not everything. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, it's worth mentioning, for those of you at home, when we do a traction video, we'll get down deep into the nitty-gritty of this, but cars that were built in Slough had to have a certain percentage of British parts on the car. What percentage was it, do you know?
I believe it's around 50%, maybe 46. The electrics and the braking system, the upholstery, and crazy enough, the cigarette ashtrays,
Oh,
which we
really?
don't have any in here now because I don't smoke. But ashtrays were made by a company called Wilmot-Breeden, who now make garage doors.
Oh, and they also make, if you've got a classic British vehicle like your Morris Minors and stuff like that, you might notice that your keys are made by Wilmot and
Ah,
Breeden. Yeah, and there's some really good documentaries on YouTube. We're going off on a bit of a tangent here, but there are some very good documentaries on YouTube where they talk about the demise of the big manufacturers in Coventry and the West Midlands, and one of the companies they focus on is Wilmot and Breeden, and it's worth watching because it is actually very interesting.
Okay.
So in terms of this traction, where else are you going this summer?
We regularly do. We like to do 1940s events, so
Oh, I
it
love
fits
that.
in very well with that. We're off to a show tomorrow near where we live,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it's a local town show. But they've never taken this car to that show yet, so that should be interesting.
Well, I
It's
think
always well received wherever you go.
Oh, absolutely. Now, I did notice on the sign, it's been on the side, it's been sign written. Is that a particular company, or is that something you've created for effect?
No. We've spent many years living in France, and one of the things we used to do was go on wine tasting tours around the vineyards.
Yeah.
If you read the sign about wine tasting tours, it depicts Chateau Thomas 1936. 36 is the year of the car was
Yeah.
made, and our surname is Thomas, but there is a Chateau Thomas, so where we've been there and bought wine, so we've included that in the
Oh, I
logo
love
on the
that.
side.
You've really made your own, and she is absolutely beautiful. And I love the fact that you've kept her original and that you haven't tried, because sometimes people, when we talk about this in videos, just take a restoration way too far
Yeah,
and you lose the
that's
history
right.
and you
Yeah.
lose some of the magic. So we wish you all the best. Thank you so much for bringing her today. Quite a trek, 75 miles, but she's made it here no sweat, and she looks beautiful.
And we're off back shortly, so
Well,
thank you.
good luck and thank you.
Thank you.
Now we start moving away from the traditional classics and we start to move into the classics of the future. Now if you watch HubNat, you will know that Berlingos are a real hot topic at the moment. James from Practical Classics has got one. Ian's got one. Everyone seems to have a Berlingo, everyone I know, and they're like the vehicle at the moment because they are dirt cheap. You can get one so cheaply and it's in pretty decent nick, and I don't understand why. What's that all about? But anyway, I thought I'd show you those as well. It's really great to see some Berlingos here, and it's great to see the love of them as well, because we met a few really lovely Berlingo owners and they were talking about how much they love them and they invest in them, and I thought, you know what, that's refreshing. That says to me that there's going to be a lot of those in the future and it's going to have a really good club scene. And so if you're looking for something to buy into now, that where you can get a really good example, dirt cheap, enjoy it, you can get all the bits for it, a Berlingo might be the Citroen for you. But there were lots of cars, some of which you may recognise if you watch other YouTube channels, and these were all very well loved as well. We did do an interview with the owner of this BX, but unfortunately we've just run out of time to show it to you today. But as you can see, lots on display, really beautiful cars in such wonderful condition. And when we were talking to them, apparently it's not the easiest thing to get parts for. So massive kudos to all these owners, because keeping a car from the 90s, and I know this sadly through personal experience, on the road is really tricky at the moment, because we're in that weird period of time where they're not worth very much money, they're quickly disappearing, and they're increasingly hard to get bits for. Now you've also got other bits and pieces just here. Now you might be wondering what this is. It's an LNA or Eleanor, as some French or French speaking people would pronounce it. And if you want to know more about that, look, little video spoiler, we have got a review of that particular car coming up, as well as something else that you've already seen in this video, which is going to be on the channel tomorrow. I'm going to keep that a little bit of a surprise, and you can come back tomorrow. So tomorrow's Citroen that you're going to be watching from this show is more of a traditional classic, and then probably in a few weeks time we're going to come back and have a look at that LNA, which again has a really great story behind it and is really well loved and is so rare. Although if you know what a Peugeot 104 is, you're probably looking at it and thinking it's just a rebadged 104. Now I am a little bit into these Avants, these tractions. They, again, we're trying to get one of those for the channel. We're sorting all of that out at the moment. But if there's any other car that you're seeing in this video and you're thinking, Steph, I would love to see a review of one of those on the channel, or you have one to offer, let me know, because we would like to get more Citroens on the channel. It's been chronically underrepresented, and after coming to this rally and feeling like Citroens are just such a thing at the moment, I think we just need to get more of them on. But yeah, just let me know below if there's one that you've seen you'd love to see on the channel, and I'll do my best to get it for you. Well, this doesn't look like any other Citroen that I've seen on the field. Darren, what is going on here?
This is actually a 2CV saloon with a fiberglass kit put on the back, so it looks like a van, and it's got one of our electric conversion kits on it. So the battery's just been in the back seat. It's more for commercial use in cities and stuff, and it's got a range. It's got a 10 kilowatt hour battery, and it's got a range of 68 miles. And people say, well, that's not far enough, but the range test we done in central London, it took me a day and a half to do that.
Okay, fair enough. Now we've got to ask the question, Channel 4 branding on the side, what's going on with that?
Yes, the Channel 4 are hiring it off us for the Paralympics.
Oh wow, what are they doing with it?
Well, Addy, the ex-Paralympian, the one with the dreadlocks,
Yeah,
I think he's done basketball. He's actually going to be driving it around Paris, and I'm over there as support. I'm his stunt double. No, I'm over there on support for 2 weeks when the Paralympics is on.
so how many charges do you think it'll take? Are you shipping it there, or are you driving it there?
No, I'll be towing it there because I need to get around Paris as well.
Yeah, no, that's very exciting. So is everything done? Are you all ready for it?
Yeah, basically, they had it was grey originally, they had it wrapped black,
Yeah.
and also they got the hand controls in it so Addy can drive it.
Oh, well, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for showing it. How's your reception been today? Because, you know, as people know at home, sometimes there's a little bit of reticence to embrace electrifying classics. How have people been here this weekend?
Well, I just want to say I am not a tree hugger. I got petrol cars as well. It's just something we offer, and you know it's quite interesting when people say. You get some of them. You get the haters and deniers who don't understand about electric. But no, it's been quite good. You know, I'm not saying we're going to sell any at the show, but it's to show people so people can see what's happening. You know, I've got electric ones, I got petrol ones.
Yeah.
You know, if you walk across the continent, buy a petrol one.
Oh, well, exactly. And I think that's the thing. If you look at Citroën, throughout their history, certainly prior to Peugeot anyway, they were masters of creation, innovation, doing something different. So to see a 2CV electrified, for me, isn't that much of a shock compared to some of the pre-war vehicles where you think it looks a little bit jarring. But that's only my opinion. So it'd be good to actually tell us in the comments section below what you think. Do you think bad idea, mad idea, or is it something that you drive yourself? Now this was the last bit of the rally tucked away, so you're going to see a bit of a mix in this section where you've got some modern Citroens, you've got some visiting classics, and for this section I'm going to have to admit, if you haven't been following the adventures lately, things have not been good at iDriver Classic headquarters. In fact, they have been dreadful. Not a single one of the cars is working at the moment, which is quite embarrassing really, but it's life, isn't it, with older cars. So the Proton has failed to proceed. That's in with a specialist. Very long story, video coming up soon. Morris Minor is now running on 3 cylinders instead of 4. Engine has arrived at work, so we're going to be putting that in the next couple of weeks. Goodness me, what else has been going on? Marina, still got to get the clutch in that, but everything else seems to be falling ahead of it. The Triumph, the parts arrived, but I just haven't had time to put them in, and the list goes on and on and on and on. And yeah, so in this video, you're actually going to spot Kev's Triumph, because Kev was really lovely and said, you don't have to miss the Triumph Rally. The Triumph Rally, the Citroen Rally, you can take my Triumph instead. And actually, we don't have it on video, but it won Best Non-Citroen Visiting the Show. I thought that was a really nice touch as well. They did a little award for the cars that had come along that weren't Citroens, which we are now approaching. And of course there's a Morris Minor. I feel like every show in the world must have a Morris Minor. Even when I've been abroad and gone to shows, they're there. But I really like this Rover. That's probably the car I would have picked as Best Non-Citroen Visiting the Show. And there's another little thing here. Now, I can't remember for the life of me what this was, and I feel very embarrassed now, but the owner was telling me, and I said, oh, do you take it out a lot? And they'd brought it to the show on a trailer, and because it's of such an advanced age, it wasn't really something that they could drive down. Now, I think this is just a special little bit of kit, and it was stood on its own, and I had to come and do a special bit of video and show you around it because it was not something I'd ever seen before, and it was so beautifully maintained. And for me, this was probably my car of the show. It was between this and there was a car that I didn't get to film on the Saturday, which was a DS made up of all different coloured panels. So those were really my standout favourites of the show. But goodness, with so many lovely cars, it was really difficult to pick. Amongst all the hubbub of people doing a 2CV race in the background, there's a band playing, there's everyone having fun, I stumbled upon this Citroen 12 from 1936. Now, I knew a little bit about this because James Walsh from Practical Classics went to France with all his Citroen mates, and they went to, where did you go, Barry?
We went to a place called Chard, which is just a little bit away from Clermont-Ferrand, which is about 15, 20 kilometres.
Now, Barry is a man that needs no introduction because if you've watched the channel in recent months, you'll know we interviewed Barry about his illustrious career, doing all sorts of things Citroen. And for me, this is one of the coolest things that Barry's done in recent times. Tell us, Barry, how long had this car been off the road and how far did you take it?
This car's been off the road since 1970-71. Lived basically most of its life from then outside, abandoned, stripped. It's a car that came my way, I knew about last year. Got in touch with a customer of mine looking for a car. He bought it, we then acquired it. We gave ourselves 3-4 months to build it in late 23, sort of October, November time. A lot of parts were missing. Jonathan, who owns the car, found a lot of the parts. I had some parts. And then unfortunately, my wife was still ill and my wife passed away in February. So the car was put on hold. And we had the event coming up in May of this year, 7th of May. And Peter and my son, we set to on it literally beginning of March, from almost a bare shell, no engine, no gearbox, lots of parts missing. So we set ourselves a target of building it to get to the rally. Any obstacle that could get thrown got thrown at us, but we eventually made the meeting, but we were 2 days late from the departure date we wanted to go. 25-hour drive on the Thursday. We arrived at the race circuit at Chard, and as I say, the rest is history.
So I think, summarising what Barry has told us there, is that none of us have an excuse anymore not to get our project cars on the road and to make the most of them. Because how many miles was it from your workshop down to the event? It must have been hundreds of miles.
I think we did, from where we are to Dover is 180 miles.
Yeah.
That was the first part of the journey. Literally, we got it out the garage, we drove to Grantham, filled it up and hit the road. If anything was going to happen, you'd think it would happen in the first 50 mile.
Yeah.
We got to Jonathan, picked him up in Cambridge, still going. Wasn't charging very well. So we put the rest of his stuff in the car and his son, so there was 4 of us in it.
Yeah.
And then we're on the ferry, off the ferry. I took over for an hour's drive, then Jonathan took over for a couple of hours, then the son carried on driving. And I think we did, must have been probably 900 mile. at
In
least.
total.
Yeah.
So the best part of 1,000 miles
Yeah.
in a car that hadn't been driven in over 50 years. Barry, thank you for everything you do for all the Citroens. Thanks for always being so generous and sharing your stories.
Yeah.
And we hope that somewhere amongst all the calamity of all the Citroens that you're repairing at the moment, you get at least a day off just to rest.
That's sort of what we're doing today.
Now, I spoke to you about the show being quite lively, and they did a few little bits and pieces, and they had a bake-off competition, and look at the effort that people went to. It was astonishing. There were so many really great entries, and we got to be a judge on it. Ended up feeling a wee bit sick, though, from too many cakes. And then you might be wondering, what on earth is going on here? Well, they also did a really fun competition where they timed people to build a 2CV of all the parts, get it into the garage space, they had to drive it around some cones, come back. They then had to disassemble it ready, get the back seats out and set it up for a French picnic. Well, we have had a fantastic day weekend actually, at the Citroen Car Club Rally. Now, if you own a Citroen, I would urge you strongly to come down next year and experience this for yourself, because this event is so welcoming and it's really inclusive in a way that I can't really convey to you unless you're here, in that whatever Citroen you've turned up in, whether it's brand new and you've only just bought it, whether it's something that's looking ripe for a scrapyard, you are equally as welcome, celebrated, and everyone's so enthusiastic about everybody else's cars. It's just a really kind, gentle, warm atmosphere that I think a lot of car clubs could actually learn a thing or two from. There's no elitism, there's no weird cliquiness. Everyone is just so friendly and welcomes you with open arms and encourages you in a way that has made me, someone who's never really thought about owning a Citroen, think, maybe when the Proton dies, maybe I'll look at a Citroen, because there's some really great people here, some really good cars, and it's made me take a second look at cars that previously I'd almost walked on past. And that is the magic of a good car club event. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've enjoyed looking at the cars, hearing the stories, but as you can hear, the music is playing. We fancy a little boogie, so we're off. So until next time, take care and drive safely.